Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Eisen with Reach the Unlimited. And I am so excited today to have Janine here with us to talk with us about her journey. And we were just having a whole live before we went live, which was really amazing conversation about spirit and our journey in this life. And so I would like all of you to welcome her to our group and to our audience. And Janine, I am so thankful that you took the time today to share with us who you are, because you're such an amazing person. And I know for me, I've learned a lot from you. So thank you for being with us here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's not a problem. I'm sat here with my cup of tea, so I'm quite relaxed. I can't see the live stream. Am I meant to see it or are you meant to see it? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. There should be a little window that says live. For me, it's on my left-hand top corner. But you're on your iPad. I don't know if it's different.
I've got mic, cam, mic, and chat. Do I go on to chat?
Hi, Marilyn. If you want to, you can see what people are saying. We do have usually a pretty chatty group.
Right. I'm quite happy.
Hi, Rebel. So, Janine, tell everybody a little about yourself that doesn't really know who you are, because I know a lot of my peeps wouldn't know who you are.
Well, most people know who I am anyway, but where do I start? My God. I'm
We'll
just
start from the beginning.
The beginning. I'm just your average housewife, Janine, with 2 children and a husband and a house, and going through the same things that you're all going through at the moment, and challenges and difficulties. And I come from a normal background. Do you know what I mean? You guys see the trance medium, don't you? And you see everything that's going on, but behind the closed doors, there's a very normal human being behind there. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like you or anybody else. So
that's an interesting way to phrase it, because I don't think any of us are necessarily normal, but we can look normal from the outside because we put on a persona or a mask. That's not really what's going on inside of us. But I know that you didn't wake up, I don't know, in your 20s and say, I think I'm going to strive to be a trance medium one day.
I mean, basically, I try not to harp on too much about myself. Everybody might go to sleep on the live stream, mightn't they? But
no, they're not. Your story is fascinating. We were just talking about this.
I'm hopeless at interviews. You can tell, can't you? I'm okay when I'm in trance because I can go to sleep and let them do it. But when it's me, I'm like, my God, no. So you want to know really how I started out in life, really, from the beginning? Should I go back to childhood a little bit then? Do you want me to go back to childhood?
Wherever that you want to start. Hi, Sharon. Wherever you want to, that you feel is important, because I really put out the intention that what is going to be really helpful to the viewer will come out today. So I'm sure that where we go will be what is needed.
Okay, then. Okay. Well, for starters, I was brought up on a farm. I was a proper tomboy. I was a proper farmer's girl. Well, you know this anyway, don't you? And I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and help my dad milk the cows. I was like your typical farm girl, you know. I was up in the hay barn. I was out getting mucky and dirty. I was just your typical tomboy, really. And that was my life, really. I was very much a loner. I didn't have any brothers and sisters and stuff. And we lived in this massive old farmhouse, really beautiful old farmhouse. Really, it was just about 500 years old, and it was always full of spirit. It was absolutely full of spirit. And I used to spend my days sitting and speaking to the spirit world, essentially, as I was growing up as a child. And I used to be able to hear them really clearly, like they were chatting in the same room. And they were sort of the huge part of my life as I was growing up, because I know you were saying you want to know about me, but that was part of the me part during that time. And my mum and dad were, I think my mum was quite a good tarot reader. She did have sort of spiritual gifts, but she didn't really choose to use it very much. But it did run in the family. And so I was just sort of brought up on the farm, really, and time went by, and I had my children, like you do, you know. One Jodie I've got now, Jodie must be about 30 years old nearly now, and Carrie's 27. And they're both spiritual, but they're not sort of tapping into it. They're not using their spiritual gifts at the moment. They're sort of on the cusp of it. They're just not ready to do that. And Yeah, so I had my children when I was about 18. So my 18th birthday, I think I was, well, my 18th birthday, I was 8 months pregnant with my first child. So
Wow.
there was a huge amount of responsibility right
Mm-hmm.
from word go. Do you know what I mean? I was thrown into the, coming from a life of being on the farm, being alone, being responsible, helping mum and dad and things like that. I was grown up with a lot of responsibility. So I had children so really young, and during this time I sort of shut down from spirit, because obviously, like you do when you have your children, don't you, you sort of
Yeah.
shut down from the spirit world. But they
Mm-hmm.
were around, and then of course, my husband's dad got married, and obviously I've got family around me. I won't go into too much detail. They've got autism in the family, so I spent a lot of my life caring for somebody who was autistic during this time, or on the
Mm-hmm.
cusp of autism,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of looking after the children. So my life lesson, my spiritual development, I would say, was that. It was that essentially. It was
Mm-hmm.
sort of learning. Well, if you've heard on my video, haven't you, Joanne? It was
Yeah.
about the unconditional love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's taught me sort of having the children and living with somebody on the spectrum of that. Was spirit were teaching me unconditional love. This is what it's about. And there was an awful lot of healing during those 28 years. So that was the start of it. John, if you want me to carry on, everybody
You
might
know
yes,
what I want to say, because it keeps yelling in my head, is that we all have these things in our life where, they're big for us, right, as we go through them. But we don't look at it as a challenge at the time because we go through it. We're just living through it. And you saying that you have a typical life is so untrue, because you took on a lot at a very young age. And you also, to be able to look at that and say, what are my lessons? Even at 18, a lot of 18-year-olds aren't that awake or aware. I know
yeah,
I wasn't at that age. To say, what is my lesson here? I mean, I know we do reflect back and we see eventually what our lessons were, but to understand at some point that, because it was a lot of hardship for you, there was a lot of things that you had to really deal with at a very young age, and you were able to rise above it. So I wanted to just say that, because I think you underestimate, because I did listen to what you're talking about, the recording, and it was very inspirational, like I told you. But I think when we're looking at our own life, we're just like, no, that was nothing. I got through it. But it's so important to share with other people our life path, because it helps them to see, look at what Janine went through and how she was able to rise above her lessons in that time period, because that's important.
because everyone's gone through far worse situations, haven't they? We've all gone through our own unique healing,
Yeah,
haven't we? In
that's
essence.
it. Yeah, our unique. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the thing is, going through that situation, having the
Mm-hmm.
kids young,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a time where I was separated with my children for many years as well. So I had to fight to get my children back home to me. So I was yet dealing with many other factors during that time, and
Mm-hmm.
illness as well, and being wheelchair bound, and all sorts of other factors going on in illness. But spirit, I would think that was my awakening, one part of my
Mm-hmm.
awakening. Do you know what I mean? Spirit pushed me,
Absolutely.
they dive bombed me into this sort of unconsciously knowing it, a spiritual awakening. And I thought, I
Mm-hmm.
think that was the preparation for here today. Do you see what I mean? Sat here with you and
Absolutely.
doing the gatherings,
Mm-hmm.
was they were the learning experiences. I think a lot of mediums can get caught up into the trap of, if I do more readings, if I do more trance, if I do more this, that's going to be the development. It is a course.
Yes, it
It's
helps. Yeah.
lessons that are the
Mm-hmm.
development. That's what I always think. So
Which is interesting that we were talking before this went live about, we were both mentioning how we've been very reflective today, which must be something in the energy. But that's what
yeah,
it's about, is reflecting about our life lessons and see, what did I learn from that? What did it teach me? How did it make me stronger? Or could I have done it better? I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about just taking classes or you doing readings for people. Like, I have this one teacher that said once, well, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you're doing it wrong, you're just going to keep learning to do it wrong. So
yeah,
that's why it's important to do that inner work and that reflective work that you were doing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. I think it's just all part of it, isn't it? It is
Right.
all. it. And certainly I think with the guides being in my energy more now, because I keep, I do little prayers each day. I light my candles and work with spirit, and I say, well, help me through the awakening. Big mistake, because they dive bomb you into something else you got to deal with, haven't they? And they give you something else. And you think, oh, do I have to deal with that today? So it's sort of like this all the time, isn't it? You think, okay, you're strong enough, we're going to give you that now. It's just like, no more. Can I just have a quiet time?
Well, then don't ask for more learning, right? I mean, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's a part of our nature of really wanting to be of service to spirit, to really want to be of service to humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just having that drive to want to learn more, or to see something in a different way, or, to understand better why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. It is so important. I mean, I think the greatest gift of, I won't say too much, obviously, on the live stream and who it is about, but I think dealing with anything like autism or any physical illness or mental illness within a family, they are the greatest lessons. I'd have rather have gone through that 10 times than been through anything else, because I think autism teaches you how to look beyond the book and outside yourself, and to learn to understand other people beyond what they're showing you. And that's what spirit showed me as part of my spiritual development, is to see that and understand it, and to love somebody unconditionally when they could be behaving appallingly because of mental illness or something like that. That's helped me learn to deal with what I'm dealing with now with spiritual work. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a key, I think, that a lot of us, I don't know that we do it perfectly in this lifetime, but as we become more aware, then that becomes the focal point of the drive of where we go, is unconditional love. Because if you have that, all things will fall into place. When you don't have that, then you're missing something really big.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not very good at these interviews, so you have to keep asking me questions.
Why? I think you're doing absolutely fantastic. You're absolutely doing fantastic. Oh, I can come up with a million questions. I was on a group on Sunday, and I was having one of those reflective days. And Janine did her trance medium, which is fabulous. And I usually have 101 questions. And that day I was just enjoying listening to everybody. And Janine goes, Joanne, do you have any questions? Wait a minute. I don't know if I do. Oh, but I came up with one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh my God.
I do love asking questions. So the interesting thing for me, though, is you go through this journey when, as you're growing up, and did your parents ever wonder or talk to you about, the fact that you had this spiritual tribe that you were interacting with? How did they take all that?
I used to sit in my bedroom, right? You're going to think I'm nuts, but I used to have all my little soft toys, and they'd all be in a big circle, and I used to put books in front of them, and I'd sit and read to the spirit world when I was a little girl. But even to this day, I still read to them, but not with the soft toys everywhere, obviously. But I sit there and I still read to them. So it's continued. And I'm now nearly 50. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, my mum and dad, they were atheists, but my mum used to read the tarot. But she used to read the tarot when they were having their parties, and she was a little bit tipsy, It's just a bit like that. She didn't believe a word of it, Typical mums in the 70s, having parties and having fun, having friends over and stuff like that. It was all a bit wild in this farmhouse. I mean, I used to go to bed and it'd be loud music, heavy rock, and David Bowie going, and lots of music going on, and it was just crazy in this spiritually haunted house, and always paranormal activity. And there's me up in the bedroom, reading to the spirit world. But yeah, my mum and dad, they were your typical hippie time parents, David Bowie, Annie Lennox, all that sort of time era. And I was very alone during that time, very introverted, because I was just with the spirit world. That was my life. That was my life as a child. And but yeah, they didn't really believe in it. They thought it was a load of nonsense. I mean, if I say to my mum now, trance, she think, well, you're just in trance, Janine. What's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? So you don't talk about it, You don't say it, because mum would just take the mickey out of a really loving place. She'd just go, oh, that's really funny, Janine. So she doesn't even know who I channel, what guides come through me. She doesn't even know I'm a trance medium. So
Oh, how funny.
medium, but she doesn't know I channel spirit world in that way. So
Uh-huh.
not that I'm keeping it.
What got her into the tarot, though? I'm perplexed by that. If she was an atheist and didn't believe in it, what was her road, you know?
I think she just used to do the tarot cards because she thought it was quite fun to do. My mum and dad were very much, very much like that. They didn't really take it very seriously. It was just that era, that time.
Yeah.
They just think it's quite comical. They're very non-judgmental. They have a bit of a laugh at me. Janine speaking to the dead people. That's what they say. A bit of a giggle, but it doesn't upset me at all. It really doesn't, because I just love them just the way they are.
So what as you were going through your journey, what was what do you think was the most, because you had more of an open mind, like from where I came from, I was raised in a Catholic church and I stayed in pretty heavy duty Christianity kind of religions for a long time. I had to really come out of the box for where I am now. But what do you think was your biggest stumbling or your biggest hurdle to go into doing trance type work, or even doing mediumship work at all, really?
Many years ago, a long time ago, I used to, my first beginning of any kind of spiritual work is I used to do, for some reason, I got thrown into spiritual rescue, people having spiritual problems in houses. And I used to remove spiritual attachments around objects, around houses. And for some reason, spirit were drawing me to it. I spent many years doing that, but I wasn't doing mediumship, I wasn't doing trance. So that was just like the really early days, the beginnings of my spiritual work. I used to go into antique shops. If I go into an antique shop, I would see spirit talking to me saying, oh, I used to own that, or I used to have this. So I was very connected with objects, with items, the history. I used to love the history and the energy around it. And then I ended up working in a history museum. It was the Chamberlain Manor, and it dated back to 1086. And it was all in the doomsday and everything. And I just loved the history. But this place was paranormally active. So then I started doing a little bit of mediumship, because people used to come in and ask about the history, but the spirit world would step into my energy and tell me about the history before I knew about it, so I could tell them looking around the manor. So my spiritual work went from one thing to another. It went from spiritual rescue and all the objects and removing them and helping people to have house clearances. And then I went into working with history with the spirit world. The spirit world taught me about working with history within the museum. They started to connect with me, come into my energy. And people used to come into the museum and say, we want a reading with you. But it was a history museum. Why are you coming in for a reading? So it's just that the spirit world led one thing to another. It just went on this course of development, and then it sort of went from that. And then I went into paranormal investigations. And then I used to go to do investigation work, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it.
What did you hate about it?
Well, I loved the history. I used to get very excited because I was more interested in the history than I was the spirit world, because I wanted to go into these really old houses and learn about the history and educate myself about what they went through in this location. But for me, paranormal investigations weren't for me, because for me, I felt it was a little invasion. It was an invasion as a spirit world, and I struggled with that. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience, and everybody was very positive. But for me, it wasn't, I didn't feel comfortable doing it. So I sort of stepped away from that for a little while, but I still miss it. I still love going to these old houses and stuff.
I don't understand why. How do you feel like, or how did you feel at the time that it was an invasion with the spiritual world?
It was sort of like, we would walk into the location, and a lot of the spirit world would feel, because there's so many wonderful paranormal investigators out there, absolutely amazing. I have to be careful because I'm on the live stream here. Amazing paranormal investigators that go in with the greatest intent to just research and communicate with the spirit world, which is amazing. But I did get caught up into researchers that weren't respectful, and I could hear the spirit world going, we really don't appreciate this. And that's why I stopped doing it. I just stopped doing it. For them, they carried on. You know, it's just different opinions, different views, different paths for different people. But I just sort of stepped away from the investigations. But that was then when I really started doing my mediumship, after I left doing investigation work.
I see. That's really interesting. So I want to be clear about this because I've never heard this before. So my brain needs to understand this. So you're talking about, like, if you have a home that still has the spirit beings inside of it, right? That they feel like their feeling would be like this is their home and you're intruding on it, or they don't you going into their privacy, or what exactly are you talking about?
Investigation work, paranormal investigation work would have been people going into locations like old jails, old manors, historical locations, not private homes. It was historical, and they were investigating. You see what I mean? They used to go in. We used to do like the big investigations in, so like we work all the way through the night, and we'd do spiritual rescue and cross spirits over and all sorts of things through those investigations. And I did that for a few years. Yeah. Did that for a couple of years, and
I've not really dabbled into or know very much about that, really, for some reason. Never, I guess, had it really cross my path.
It never really, it crossed my path for a while, but I think I did it out of curiosity. It wasn't my path. It was just an experience that spirit brought to me, I think, and a lesson and an experience. I mean, there was one time, have you ever heard of Most Haunted? The paranormal investigation show. It's the UK show, but I went on some of their investigations as well with them, and I'd seen how the film industry had worked with paranormal things and investigations, and it just wasn't part of my path. It was part of it, but not my end result, if you know what I mean. It was just an experience, I think.
Now I understand, especially like in some of the prisons or places where like children would have been kept, and it just, I understand now more what you mean. And I agree with you. That was never really, I haven't gone that way because it really is not my path either. I'll let other people do that.
There's some amazing mediums out there that would have are naturally equipped to deal with that, aren't they? And they're really good at that work. But for me, it was like I was just so caught up in the spirit world. Oh my God, they're so upset, and this person's feeling this. I thought, no, I can't do this anymore.
So when did you actually get into doing trance medium? Because that's a far different thing than doing physical mediumship. How did you get into trance mediumship?
Well, it hasn't been very long at all. I mean, about 6 years ago, it must have been about 6 years ago, I used to come into the bedroom every day and sit and meditate for 2 hours a day. And I used to slip into a trance state. But I obviously didn't know what trance was. I mean, I didn't know that there was any such thing as the spirit world talking through you like that in your vocality. All I know is that I was slipping into some sort of trance state. And I'd sit and blend with spirit 7 days a week for a couple of hours a day for years. And then many years later, a friend approached me and said, oh, can you help me with trance mediumship? And I thought, what are you talking about? I've never heard of it. What do you mean? What are you talking about? How can I teach you trance mediumship? But by that time, I was doing the readings by this time, many years later. And then it was just one night. It was in the middle of the night. One evening, it was about 3 a.m. in the morning. I was fast asleep and I was in dream state, and I suddenly aware that I couldn't move in my bed. The only thing that was moving was my mouth, but not my body. And it was quite, oh my God, what's going on? And I could hear two ladies on the right-hand side of my bed laughing out loud. Well, do you want to talk through, or shall I? I was lying there and I was incapacitated. I couldn't move. I thought, what's going on? And I came out, shot out of this sleep state, and I thought, what is that? Oh my God. And and then I went and had a reading with a trance medium. And then they obviously, you know, that all sort of brought everything up to the surface, and then I just started developing for trance that day onwards. So, but those two ladies never came back.
Oh, how good. That didn't sound like it was a good thing.
Well, no,
That would be horrifying for somebody to wake up like that.
Yeah.
I misspoke because mediumship is not physical mediumship. Trance medium is physical mediumship. But can you tell people a little bit that may not understand trance mediumship what that actually is?
Sorry, say that again because you broke up a little bit.
Okay, can you explain to people that may not know what trance mediumship is, what that actually is?
Trance mediumship is when the spirit world, you've got your normal mediumship, and the spirit world will overshadow you a little bit and bring the information to your mind. But with trance, they'll come even closer into the energy and take you into more of a sleepy state. They'll overshadow you even more, and they'll come and talk through your vocality. So it's more of a direct form of communication. So rather than the medium bringing the information, the guides bring it directly. And
now, I know a lot of people feel like that would be considered spirit jumping, or that they're taking over your body. Can you tell people a little bit about that?
Definitely not jumping and not taking over your body. Oh my God, no, nothing like that at all. They're coming in from a place of unconditional love. They just come a little bit closer into your energy, a little bit closer into your aura, and they manipulate that. And they manipulate with your energy, your emotions, your consciousness, and they come in and install what they want to say. So they come and work through that. But with some mediums, if the more of their voice box changes, as it does with Richard occasionally, doesn't it? What it does with Richard or Ethel that comes through, they build up the little bit of ectoplasm in the back of the throat, so that will come through and create the voice box. But with some trance mediums, the voice won't change, so they'll come in just close enough, but not close enough to change the voice box. So there's different levels of trance, isn't there? There's the light trance, and then the deeper levels of trance as they come even closer. Yeah, but it's not jumping. It's manipulating the energies.
No, they don't. Your body can't do things like that. No. But I want to reassure people it's not that the person is being taken over. It's that you're allowing them to work through you. Yes. They're still separate from you. You're just blending with them so they can work through you. And it takes an immense amount. I mean, I have to really give you kudos to it because I haven't gotten there yet. But to have that kind of surrender and trust is really an amazing thing. To get, because I mean, you talk about where your mind goes, and for me, my mind hasn't gone anywhere yet. So there you go. I haven't gone horseback riding or gone out, on the ocean or anything like. I'm just still trying to drop it behind and let it go.
I know what you mean.
Talk to people a little bit about what you actually experience with your mind.
With my mind, oh my God, it's. Sometimes when I go into trance, if I'm really nervous or my mind's full of thoughts, if you were to hear me having a conversation with Richard, I go, for God's sake, Richard, I can't get my mind out of the way. Get me out of the way. Get me out of the way. Don't let me down. Speak through me clearly. All this sort of stuff. I'm a real control freak. Honestly, if you'd hear the conversation between me and my guys at the gatherings, you'd all be sitting there laughing. But honestly, this is what happens before the gatherings, So even me, Janine, struggles to get out of the way. But once they step into my energy, I'm gone. So all that anxiety that was there has gone. But how do I step away was your question, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically it's how what's happening as you're allowing that mind to stop the chatter and for spirit to be able to just work through you.
What I tend to do, I mean, everybody's spirit team are so different from mine. So every medium's not going to blend in the same way. But with Richard and Alice, they've always taught me one rule of thumb: just go to sleep, Janine. Because it's as simple as that. When you go to bed, you think about things, don't you? Obviously, if you've got a lot on your mind, but you just go to sleep. You don't get stressed about sleeping. You just go to sleep. And I found that was the best way for me in trance, was to literally go to sleep and let the spirit world come in. And I remove my mind out of the equation. and they sort of then take me down, but it's lots of different levels. So sometimes I'll have no awareness, and other times it'd be like hearing them in another room, but they're having a conversation, and I can hear what they're saying occasionally. And then I step foot, they push me out the way. So I'm a bit nosy, if you know what I mean. So it's like you're overhearing a telephone call.
Yeah.
And sometimes with Richard, he'll take me somewhere. So he'll take me to somewhere in the spirit world, somewhere really beautiful, right? So hypothetically, he'll be having a conversation with me. No, actually, I've got one story here. He took me to his house once, where he used to live when he was alive. And we were sat in front of the fire having a conversation whilst he was talking to you all in that trance gathering. There was one time he done that. He only ever done that once. So sometimes he'll do that.
I thought I was reading Marilyn's question. So I was paying attention to you, but reading at the same time. It's really interesting because it's hard to. So do you find that, okay, I'm going to have like 5 questions in this, and it's kind of going to go into what Marilyn said. But do you kind of feel like at the different stages that it makes a difference in the kind of messages you bring forward or the kind of work that you do, if you're like in a more light trance versus a really deep trance or somewhere in the middle? Does that make a difference?
It goes in peaks and troughs because they'll take you into different levels of trance. So if Alice, for instance, comes through me, okay, Alice keeps me in a lighter state of trance, whereas Richard takes me into a deeper state of trance. And I've noticed when Ethel brings me through, she takes me even deeper than Richard. So they're all sort of blending with me in different ways. If that makes sense. So
totally makes sense to me.
And if my awareness comes back, I'll say to Richard, please just get me out of the way. And then he'll just remove me out of the way. It's like we're constantly talking to each other. We're all talking to you at the gathering. It's like all this conversation going. It's crazy.
Well, that's good to know, because sometimes I feel like I'm not connected, right? Like my egoic mind or my mental mind is not there. But yet it's almost like your awareness of the higher self, your higher self, that's being kind of the guide and the director of what's happening. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, I think if you're sitting there in trance and you're thinking about the washing, or if I've got to go shopping, which we're all guilty of, aren't we? If I'm sat here blending on my own and my own development, sometimes I can sit there on my own and I cannot go into trance because all I'm thinking about is, oh shit, I should have gone shopping, or I should have done this. And it's cutting that all out of the mind and going into that that clearness in the mind. And the only way I can do that personally for me is to go to sleep. But not everybody can do that. Everybody likes to stay in a more high level of consciousness, don't they? So
is it because of your ego, though? Is because of your, I don't think it's your ego, but is it the trust, maybe having enough trust? Like, okay, so one of the things that I know people ask a lot when you're talking about trance mediumship is that they're afraid that they would get stuck and not come out of a trance. So I think that would be a part of, like, if you've got some kind of fear or attachment to it, that would keep you from going into a deeper trance.
I mean, I think, to be honest, there's the old way and new way of teaching trance, isn't there? And I think it's really good not to, I try not to come from a judgmental place, because everyone is taught in a different way with their spirit team. But I think, can you repeat that question again? Sorry, I've just gone slightly blank there.
That's okay. Well, a lot of people have fears when it comes to trance mediumship, a different level of fears. And one for me is, I think, why I said trust, because one for me would be just complete surrender and trust. Because I am controlling. I'm a controlling person. I have to control my mediumship.
I think fear is something that we've manifested into this world. That's what Richard always says to me anyway. People do fear about going into trance on their own. But from my experience and what my guides say, if anybody's first time ever going into trance, they've never gone into trance ever in their lives, I would strongly suggest sitting with somebody. because it'll be their first experience. But once they've sat and blended and they're used to the blending, then it's absolutely fine. My opinion anyway, I might be wrong, to sit on your own, because I think if we're in that equation of going, well, we mustn't sit on our own, that's like saying, well, we don't trust our spirit team, so we've just pushed them out of the way, haven't we? I think we have to completely surrender.
We do.
We have to completely surrender. It is the only way, and it is unconditional love. And if we're coming from a place of fear, and we've been brought up in the fear process of, spirit get in, we're never going to get them out, or something like that, and I think that's something to work through the healing. That's a healing process that needs to be worked through, and the connection with your guides. But I also think it's really important to get to know your team, who you're blending with is really important as well.
That's very important. That is very, in fact, this morning when I was sitting in my meditation, all I did was spend most of the entire meditation with coming and going of my guides, feeling the difference of how one will feel over the other one. And that's all. And even just to know that, knowing where you are, and when anybody, any energy enters into your or your field, it wouldn't come out. It tried, but it wouldn't come out. It comes into your auric field. That, you feel that. So it's about being aware of that.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, I haven't been doing trance very long at all. And you think people have been doing it 15, 20 years. I'm a complete novice. I know you say, oh, no, you're not, Janine, but I am. I think I am anyway. But
you're hard.
What I've been taught from spirit is that we must trust completely. Right. That is the only way. And the only way to blend and get that great connection is to heal inside ourselves before we can truly blend with our guides. Because they can't get through into our energy if we're holding on to so much stuff, so much fear. They have to work through all of that to work in our energy. But I think fear of attachments and things like that, I think that's something that if we create fear, that's what we're going to get in our reality. So it's changing that viewpoint, isn't it? The way we think of things and view things, and it will change what happens in our reality. We attract what we think, don't we?
Right. I think it's interesting because I'm feeling in the energy the collective has fear based on this topic. And I don't know that it's necessarily just the fear of the spirit world, right? Because even Christians will believe or know that we're souls. We have a soul, right? There could be a difference of what they believe happens through their soul, but we all believe that we have a soul. And that's just our spirit. That's just the who we really are in form of spirit, not this human being. We're just the illusion of being on this planet and going through our life lessons here. But I think a lot of people fear the dark and the darker energies versus the lighter energies. But from my experience, and maybe you could talk about, because you have many, many years of this, I don't, but I don't find that when I go into my meditations or when I go into connecting with my guides and my spiritual helpers, I don't ever have any sense of fear, or because what you said, it's all about unconditional love. So I don't go in, I've never had an experience where I felt fear.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is man-made, isn't it? What we're brought up with as a child and what we see on television. So it's sort of the fear is stuck there in us, isn't it? Our thought process, what we're thinking, and I think that comes in to some of us in our development. Do you know what I mean? It can come into that. I mean, we do have to be aware of who we're channeling. We do have to be aware of who our guides are. It's really important. We can't just allow everybody to be coming in our energy and channeling through us.
Right.
It's important to trust our team. I think that's important. It's important to stay away from fear, because I think when we create that into our reality, we bring it into our reality. Do you see what I mean?
I absolutely
agree. And I think if we stay in that proper vibration and in that place of love, the only thing we're going to attract is love and light.
Well, I also feel like, when we're working in the spiritual world, that people don't realize that they have control. You have control if you're feeling uncomfortable with anything to have them back away and ask for, space or whatever you need, or I'm uncomfortable with this. Even when I do mediumship readings, I ask, if you feel uncomfortable with this, let me know, because we don't have to go there. And I firmly believe that we're respecting the process of the person, and we're trying to bridge the gap between the spiritual world and the human world. Because that's the real world, is the spiritual world. The human world is just, again, it's the illusion.
Yeah, I think we have less to worry about with the spirit world. We have more to worry about with the living. That's exactly. I see it. Maybe I should have said that, but I have absolutely no fear of the spirit world whatsoever. I think I have more fear of what's going on around us in our physical world than I do in my spiritual life.
Exactly. And what Marilyn said is fear of judgment. And that is one of the biggest things that we do worry about, or that will hold us back, is fearing that somebody's going to judge us about what we're doing, or, the path that we're taking. And you have to get to a point where you just say, I don't care, because I know this is right for me. Yeah. I've proven it within myself. And I know you've been, even though you keep saying it, you have not been doing it for very long. You're really good at what you do. And it's really an amazing experience to talk with this. For me, the first time I talked with spirit through you was like, oh my God.
This was in the early days, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's crazy amazing to know and see, because I know you're not, this is not things that you're saying. It's not your voice. It's not your way you live, or how you even speak.
I seriously, when I hear Richard, what he's saying, I mean, I barely read. I read like the children's books. I mean, I'm completely uneducated. I didn't single exam of GCSE. I mean, I don't know anything about the space. And I mean, when I hear Richard, when he talks back, I think, where the hell did that come from? Because I didn't know about that at all. I just like, my God. If you were to ask me now about space, I would just I go, what? I just look at you with a blank expression. I think, I wouldn't know where to start talking.
And that's when you know that it's true. I mean, when I say things, like even sometimes when I'm doing these lives, I'll say things and I'm like, oh, where did that come from? That did not come from me. So they're always working through us when there's messages to bring to people. But when you're doing trance mediumship, that's like the most, it's so crazy to be speaking to spirit, because we all have this ability. We all can do this. We all can have, like Marilyn was talking about, when she blends with her spirit guides and bringing this information forward and up, and for you to know. Like the other night I was doing a reading, and I was like, I could see this car and I couldn't come up with the name of the car. So I actually said, I don't know what kind of car this is, because I'm not really up on my cars. And as I was saying that, I realized that was you not trusting spirit to speak through you. That's all that was.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I do think that we have to do our inner work and know things, but when spirit has a message to give, they're going to bring that information forward.
Do you know what was the really weird transformation in the trance? The really pinnacle moment. I remember, it's a friend of mine on Facebook's got some recordings of Alice before she changed my voice. Just me speaking now in trance, just like this. And I listened back and I thought, bloody hell, is that really me? And I listen now, what's going on. But the day I trusted the words from spirit coming through my mouth, that's when they started changing the vocal sound in my vocal box, because I trusted the information. And I've always been taught by Richard, that is the pinnacle part of the development. If you can get past and trust whatever it is being said, no matter how silly it might be, and allow the words to flow, they'll go, right, okay, you trust us, we'll come a little bit closer, and they'll give you a little bit more, and you'll go, oh, that felt a bit strange. Did my voice change then? Do you know what I mean? And they give you a little bit more, and they say, right, okay, you're going to trust us a little bit more, and now to bring the words through. And I find, for me, I mean, it might sound like I'm a bit like I'm ego, but that's just how spirit worked with me. They gave me little bits at a time. You trust us, and we'll come this little bit closer. And it's almost like, if you do this healing here, and sort your emotional stuff out here, we'll come even closer into your energy. Richard has been quite strict with me. He's always said to me, and Alice has said, work on yourselves and we'll come closer into your energy. We'll sit and wait for you. And that I truly believe that is the only way to develop as a trance medium, is to work on you, your own energy.
Not just trance mediumship, that's for mediumship as well. If you're not doing your own inner work and trusting, then you're not going to be able to give the messages, for sure. And you're going to stay stagnant. And it's really that simple. And it really is about trusting, even in the physical life, like, you know, the infamous, why did I turn left instead of right? Because I had this feeling I should have turned left instead of right. And those times where you turn right instead of left. And it's not about going right was wrong. It was about the lesson in it. It's like, if I would have gone left, what would have happened? If I would have went right, what would have happened? But I didn't try. I mean, it's all lessons, but I've learned that more and more. Like the other day, I don't remember what I was doing. And I heard, you know, do this other thing. And I was like, no, I just wanted to experience this. I knew it wasn't a big deal. It was a small little deal. I just wanted to play. And we forget to play because it isn't that serious. It's about playing and figuring things out, because that's how we learn about ourselves. And I did learn a lot about myself by saying, I want to do it this way because I want to play. I want to see what it's like.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. And it's all the healing. It is definitely all the healing. You know, I could go through, sometimes I can take a week off from readings, or week off from doing anything spiritual, and I can have the crappiest week in history. I can either get a cold, or I'm arguing with a family, or I'm depressed, and it's this horrendous negative energy all week surrounding me, and it's just like hell on earth. And I think, what the hell is this about, you know? And by the end of the week, I see the lesson that was learned emotionally. And by the time I get to the end of that week, and I notice when I do the next gathering, Richard takes me deeper into trance.
Oh, wow.
English time, but yet he's progressed me during this whole week of healing. And then the blending's better. It sounds crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That was a good example of how we learn from both sides, right? It's just like me saying, I could listen to everything you say and have this life that would seem to be easier. Or I can learn from the polar opposite. Either way, it's what I choose to do. Now I do choose now not to take the harder road when it's really hard. I'd rather do it on the easy, simple things now in my life. But I didn't always live that way. So but I love how, you know, that's a good example about the dualities that creates more of an opening, because then you really see what it's like when you do live in the world where you are trusting your guides. And I do believe that you know who your guides are, but that's why, again, it's important to sit with them and know who they are, because that's how you develop that relationship. How did you get to meet or get to know Richard as your guide? What is the story with that one?
It's a long story. I can tell you some of it because it's live stream, but I will tell you the other part in private. Okay. But I wouldn't let them channel through me until I'd had hard-proof, bomb-proof evidence, because I just wouldn't trust. I wasn't in a trustworthy space at that time. But I had a medium come to me, and she channeled both my guides and brought them through to show me that they were going to be talking through me. So I was really lucky, very fortunate that my guides reached me through another medium in a trance state and reached and talked to me. So, and I could let go then, but it wasn't until that time that I could let go and allow that to happen. So I was lucky in that respect, you know, to have that. But Richard has been channeling through my poetry through me for many years, my writing, because my whole family are writers. My grandfather, Ayland Etheridge, he's in spirit now, he's probably watching. He wrote a small book, and Christine, my auntie, Christine Etheridge, wrote a small book as well. And Richard is part of our family going back to the 18th century.
Oh, now, I didn't know that.
I wasn't aware of him until my mum brought him up to me one day. And none of my family had met him because it was before their time span. But Richard was a great author of books, is all I'm going to say. to protect his identity. Okay. He wrote a lot of books in his time. And more about him and his history through my family after a lot of family trees and investigations. And I had another medium bring him through inciting poetry to me to prove who he was. And then I started to channel him even more through my poetry. But after coming through my poetry, he used to work through me through my, when I used to do written readings, I used to write the messenger readings to people in the beginning. Do you remember I used to do I used to do written readings. Well, Richard was the one helping bring in the information through the early days before I used to go on video. He used to write through me to do those. I used to do email readings, messenger readings, and I'd channel into the picture of the person. I used to do hundreds of them, one after the other in my development. I used to do it all for free. Wow. And Richard would channel through me. So he worked from the poetries to the readings to the trance. So it's been one progression to the other. So it's sort of continued like that. But Richard has a long history case on him, but I'm not going to disclose that on Facebook. Alice, on the other hand, came through the same medium to say, hello, I'm here. Hello, this is me. And I was just sort of blown over by Alice completely. And now Alice is part of the same family as Richard. They're connected by bloodline in the same century. There are two Alices in our family, but this Alice was in London. She was a nurse, had several children. She came through another trance medium to say, I'm talking through you. So they both made very strong links and connections to me, but I wouldn't let them talk through me until I'd had that proof. So there's a lot of trust, research, sitting with another medium to bring the proof to me. Okay, I need the proof of these guides. I was stubborn. I wasn't going to just accept it. I was like, some mediums would go, God, Janine, why did you have to put yourself through all of that? But I wanted the proof. I want to know exactly who I'm channeling, who my guides are. I'm not going to do a gathering and a trance demonstration until I know exactly who I'm working with and that I can completely trust. And that's what I said earlier. Get to know your guides when you're in trance. Get to know who they are, and then once you've got past that, you can just completely let go. But you don't have to go through all of that, though.
I probably would, because I'm very Are all the people that you channel, are they all family members, or some just other people that you kind of connected to?
I mean, little Ethel that's just come through recently is only a recent addition that started channeling through me. And I didn't know who she was. And a friend came to me lately, was actually in the last couple of weeks, actually. She said to me, who's Ethel? And I said, how do you know Ethel? Because I've not mentioned Ethel to you at all. She's not seen me channeling her. She's a little old lady that channels through you and she's all hunched over. And I went, what? There's no way that she could have known at all. And then somebody else came to me a week later and said, Ethel. And I went, what? So she'd really reached out to me through other mediums who had no prior knowledge. So I've been able to let go and let her come through, because she's worked so hard to bring proof with poor woman.
So, but you don't know if she was a family member or somehow in your line, or just somebody who you soul connection to?
Another medium did say to me that she was picking up a grandmother-y line with her distantly in another lifetime. So, but a couple of mediums in the last few weeks have come to me that have not even heard Ethel and come to me and said, oh, by the way, Ethel says this. Okay, what? So she's worked really hard as well. And then the other guys that comes through, Jonathan, Emma Maffa. Actually, I can show you if I can. Can you hang on a minute? I'll show you a picture of Jonathan.
Okay. I actually have a Jonathan connected to me.
Oh, do you?
I do. Which is very interesting. Hi, Pearl. I didn't say hi to you yet. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat, because we're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon.
Oh, hang on. That's Jonathan.
Oh, yes, I have seen that picture. Yes, yes, yes. You've had it on your Facebook page. Now, who is John?
Well, Jonathan is apparently a grandfather figure somewhere in another life, or in lifetime. Emma drawed him for me. She's an amazing artist, isn't she? Amazing.
Yeah.
He started coming through me, but I haven't let him through at gathering. And of course, there's Jack as well, and I haven't let him through.
Now, Jack's intriguing to me. Who is Jack? How is he connected? You don't know yet?
Absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. I don't know anything about him at the moment, apart from the fact that he's a Londoner. He's very strong-willed, very strong-minded. I'm sure he came to me to sort of almost protect my energy, toughen me up a little bit, because he very much, I've noticed since he's been in my energy, I don't get emotionally so upset anymore. I'm a little bit stronger. So he tends to, he's a bit like a gatekeeper, I think. He tends to sort of, because I'm very sensitive. I'm much of an empath, so I'm very sensitive to other people's emotions. But since he's been around, he's sort of taught me how to balance my energies out, and he's toughened me up a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you have any idea where people's guides come from? Are they all connected to us through family lineage somehow, or is there any kind of rule to that, or there's not a rule?
Who knows? I mean, who am I to know? Because I'm not in the spirit world. I don't know. I mean, what's Richard saying now?
Well, I have a question. I'm going to go down on my questions.
They're all connected. I think we're all connected. It's all past lives, isn't it? Present lives. We're connected to different spiritual people, whether they would have been family members. And I'm sure it was all pre-planned for them to come back and work with us. I'm sure it was. We don't have that memory of it, do we?
I'll put the information, Marilyn, about how to go for a reading. Definitely. I love that you said that, because I do believe that we are all connected, and there is a reason for all of us. And we can't, the reason I'm saying that is sometimes a lot of people that I know get very frustrated that they're not moving fast enough, or they're not, and I could put my hand up on that one. I'm one of those too. But allowing, again, that's going back to the trust and allowing. The more that I let go of needing or trying or pushing, then the more I'm able to move forward, because it really is about surrendering, even though that's a hard concept to get through.
Yeah, I think we're the only ones that hold ourselves back. I think the spirit world will work with us as fast, as slow as we want it to be. And I think we decide on how slow or fast it's going to go, and how much we heal. And I mean, what I did with my guides was really extreme. You know, you've got to give me this evidence, and I got to have this and that, because I was I didn't need to put myself through that. Had I just trusted to start with, I would have to go through that, the more
I'm like, I need to have this evidence, or why am I not getting this evidence, or not like a panic attack in my mind, like, where is this evidence? And then the more that I don't get it, but when I go into just like breathing and allowing, that's when you open up, and then they're able to give you what it is. Unless, like, the other thing that I've noticed for me, unless it's hitting close to home to something I haven't worked on yet. If there's something that I'm still working on that is kind of touchy for me, then no matter how much I calm down, I'm not going to open that up.
Yeah.
So that's when it's going to work.
I tell you what, I'll try not to harp on too long, because I know you want to go, but I think the most pinnacle point as well of my spiritual work was when in my mountaineering days, because I spent a lot of time alone on my own. And I think the more we try and connect with ourselves and have that one-to-one time with us, that I think really helps our connection with our spirit team and our own healing. And definitely.
That is very true. Do you have access to the chat area?
I can press it. Hang on. Something's coming up.
You can put in your information in there.
I can't see anything. I've just pressed chat and nothing's coming up. Nothing is coming up. I can write something.
Yeah, you can. If you can put your contact information, people want to get a hold of you.
Oh yes, if they just go to if they go to my Facebook profile,
okay,
they can just message me straight there, and I can send them all the details from there on. Or you can go on to my clairvoyance demonstration group, but you need to send me a friend's request to get onto that, if you know what I mean.
I'll go ahead, you guys, and put it in after this recording is uploaded to YouTube and Facebook. I'll go ahead and put it in there. Thank you, Sharon. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this conversation. Now, everybody remember that this is a two-parter. So today we're talking to Janine, but sometime the end of January, beginning of February, we're going to set a date to have her guides come through. And it really is a special treat to be able to experience that. So look for that. We'll set up a time. And during that time, it won't be personal questions. It'll just be spiritual questions that you would have. And it will go through me and I will ask the questions. So we'll do a question and answer. So be ready. Have your questions ready. And we'll do a demonstration on that. Is there any last words you want to share with people? What's your big takeaway you would like people to have? I know that's a big question. There's no wrong answer here.
I mean, I know some of you on the live stream, I can't see the live stream. Some are mediums, some aren't mediums, some are not choosing to work with spirit, or they're just curious about it, or they may be a medium. I think particularly during this time at the moment with what's going on, is to trust your own spirit. Richard always says it to me. You must trust your own spirit, trust your own path, because I think we're all able to guide ourselves where we need to be if we listen hard enough to us. Because I think that's the trouble. We're in a society where we're not listening to us, we're listening to all the outside clutter and all the outside noise. It's to come within, isn't it? And just listen to us. Because I think even with all the COVID, everything that is going on at the moment, I think we need to, even though that's there and awareness is there, we need to listen to what's happening in the world. We need to come back away and come focusing into us. And I may not just sitting there and thinking, well, okay, I'm sat there alone, you know, but really focusing on the us, healing, looking within, changing the situation into a really positive experience and saying, okay, we're in this situation. What can we do to change it, to make it better, to make it into a positive, into a great thing? Do you know what I mean? And to come out of it and it to be do you know what? I'm really glad all that. Not glad that it happened. We wouldn't want that to happen, but glad I went through the experience.
And I think that when you get to that point and have that view, then life goes easier, because none of us want to go through difficult situations, but we chose to come here to do that. And if we could keep that in mind, then the difficult situations become easier, even though they're not easy, because we understand the end result. So it really is a matter of keeping focused on, you know, what is the lesson? What can I learn from this? This isn't happening to me. This is happening for me to grow and to learn from. And then when we can take that viewpoint, then we're able to use it in a more positive way, which is really important. Thank you, Deborah, for putting her information on YouTube. I have it showing right now on the screen, but on Facebook, I will also put it in there and then put it again in YouTube's main chat, because the chats will be gone after we stop being live.
Wow. Sorry, I'll let you get on in a minute. Richard's just brought it into my head. I thought I didn't want to say that because it's quite private, but he's saying it anyway. Today, I've had a terrible day. I actually got out of bed and I felt really quite low and disheartened.
Oh, no.
But everybody does. But the message I'm getting across is that I realised, okay, that situation is happening. Why is this happening? And I had to say, what am I feeling? What is it I'm feeling like I want to do? Well, actually, I feel like sitting here all day and doing nothing, or watching a film, or doing this. I feel like being a lazy couch potato. Is, I suppose, my guides at the back here are saying, listen to your bodies, listen to your minds, do what your body feels, do what your soul is saying to you, because your soul is telling your body what it needs. And if it needs to heal, if it needs to sit, if it needs to release, if it needs to experience something, then to just go with it. Yes. At this time, it's a really difficult time, isn't it? All this energy that's going around, and you know,
it really is, and it can be overwhelming, and we have to understand that, especially with all the people that we see that are suffering right now in the world, and that's really hard to watch. As we were talking about earlier. So we have to listen. We have to also know how to turn things off, like we were talking about, and walk away and do self-love.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people, Marilyn, have been having headaches. That seems to be a pretty big trait overall right now for some reason.
Headaches are a lot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the changes, isn't it? Energetically, emotionally, and what's happening in the world. We're all reacting to the stress, aren't we, and the energy and everything like that. But I mean, Spirit keep telling me, they keep saying to me, well, don't react to that energy. Change the energy, change your reaction to the energy that is around you. You don't have to be controlled by what's happening. You can control your own energy and your own environment and create that into something really good, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of times too, it's getting out of the routine that we're in, like coming out of the belief system that we have to be a certain way, or that we're going to be affected in a certain way, that we can change it. But the other part of it is to respect and honor when we're going through those ebbs and flows, because those also will very much dictate how we're feeling. I mean, all of us go through times where we get out of bed and think, I'm just not going to function today. And we do, we have to do what's the most loving for us. And usually it's not that we don't want to function. It's usually, for me, what I experience is something that I'm not facing, something I'm avoiding, or something that I need to look at, or I just need to rest because I've been pushing really hard and my brain is fried or something.
Yeah, it's like some days you just want to sit there, don't you, and with a cup of tea and look up at the sky or look at the ceiling and just completely think about nothing, isn't it? Just going into
yes. But you know how long I do that? For about 2 seconds, and I'm off doing something else again. I just can't seem to not do it. I just need those momentary moments of quietness, and then I'm off to do it again. Crazy.
My spirit guides keep saying, why don't you do that all day, Janine? And I'm thinking, no, I can't. Try it for the day, they say. Be in the silence.
Man. I don't even know if that's physically possible.
I don't know. I try. I really do try.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Janine, for your time, for sharing your life, because I know that you were very kind of more edited in what you were saying today.
It quite a lot on here, yeah.
Which is absolutely fine. But it was still very inspirational. And a part of my goal is to have people on that talk about their journey and talk about their life to inspire other people, because we're not the only ones that are going through this. And sometimes when you just don't understand what's going on, like when I was doing my meditations, I realized like over a year ago, I was actually speaking when I would go into trance. And now that I'm technically working on trance, I stopped speaking. Like, okay, what's with that? The point, though, is that, we're going through our process and we all take different roads. And it's really good to hear other people's stories so we can feel like we're not alone, or this is happening to me and now I understand it better, or similar to what I'm experiencing. So thank you for sharing, everybody.
I'll leave, I just said about coming into the quietness a minute ago. I will let you go in a minute, but I can remember a time up in, I won't harp on about it because it'll all be asleep. When I was in the Himalayas climbing, we were near Everest. We had gone past Everest. We were on the back end of Everest, and we got hit a snowstorm, and we had to go into our tent. So we had our own little one-man tent because I wanted to sleep on my own, and we were under a seracs, they call it, and like avalanche prone area. So a storm came in, and they said, you've got to sit in your tent for 2 days. At -30, okay? So when you closed your mouth or you breathed, you wouldn't close your eyes because you'd be worried they'd freeze together. I mean, I know it sounds really funny, but honestly, it was really scary. I had to sit in that tent and look up at the tent for 48 hours. I could not do anything other than eat peanuts or a little bowl of rice, where a little Nepalese man would unzip the tent at 2 a.m. to this little bowl of rice he'd been cooking up for me in a snowstorm, And I sat there for 2 days.
Oh my!
And I came into the silence of myself. And that's what my guides have always taught me. I know you don't have to put yourself into that situation.
That's what I was thinking.
If you can come into the space of that silence, particularly what's happening at the moment, and really look within and take away all the distractions. That's going to leave that with you.
That is absolutely perfect. Deborah, you're on Facebook. I saw. Do you want to put? I thought I saw you were on Facebook. If you want to put, no, maybe you're still just on. I'll put it on Facebook. It's okay. That is really an amazing. You guys haven't even heard the stories of her rock climbing and her challenging stuff in that arena, which is absolutely mind blowing. But I can't believe what you did when you were climbing Mount Everest. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
But
Well, there was a mountain next to it. It wasn't Mount Everest. It was right
it's
next
still
to it.
crazy. That's crazy that you put yourself, but I can understand that because I did it in a different way, similar thing, but not the same thing. But when you challenge yourself like that, like extreme challenges like that, that's where you get to know how strong you actually really are, because we are stronger than we think we are. And we don't think we are because we're living in these worlds of, I don't know, kind of complacency, you know, we're not really challenged in that way. So that's amazing.
I mean, I think I climbed a lot and taught climbing because I thought to myself, if I can climb a mountain, I can deal with having a family with autism. I can deal with that and work through that. And it taught me how to do that. But I think the climbing has taught me about my spiritual work now. It's not to give up no matter what.
Yes, exactly. See, I did it through a totally different medium. I did it through weightlifting, and I was lifting and I know you did weightlifting too.
Really?
And running. You did running as well. And I did it through running and weightlifting, where I was lifting crazy amounts of weight. And I absolutely loved it. But it showed me, because I came from nothing to being really strong. Wow. And it showed me that I could do it. It was and I didn't stop. It was like every step of that journey gave me more and more strength to keep going. But then an event happened that ripped it all away from me. And I haven't done weightlifting in a while, and I really miss it. But now it's showing me that there was more. That was the physical. That was building your physical body up and showing that you can be a strong person, because I tend to be kind of egoic in my mind anyway. So I didn't need to build up that way. I needed to have the confidence to build up my body. And so now it's like bringing everything full circle. So that's what the beauty in those kinds of experiences, not to show the physical side of something, but it's to work with your emotional and mental side to say, I am a stronger person than I actually think I am. And
your guys are probably preparing you then during that time.
Oh, God, yes. When I look back at what I was going through at that time, it's like totally gearing me up for where I was going, for sure.
It's not all about readings and things like that, is it? Or they're buzzing in my ears.
No, it's not. You know, people think that it is, and it is a part of our journey, because we're learning and we're also helping other people to learn at the same time. There's nothing, you know, there's no diminishing the doing readings and spiritually helping people to grow. But really, we're all here in this playground to help each other to be stronger souls, to be stronger spirits. That's what it's all about. Yeah. This life is really nothing. This is just our playground. That's why I like to say, yeah, come play with me. Let's go play, because this is what we're supposed to do. Remember to have fun and enjoy life.
I remember one time, it was the Kyrgyzstan mountains in Bishkek. And it was the unclimbed mountains. But it was in the year 2010 when the war broke out in Bishkek and Kyrgyzstan. Do you remember in 2010 when all that broke out?
Yeah.
We had an expedition there, and they said, oh, it'll be all fine. And I thought, well, hang on, we're going through Bishkek and it's a war zone. Why would you want us to go out climbing in unclimbed peaks in the middle of a war zone? But they said, no, it'd be fine. The visas are fine. You'll get through the borders. We got there, but yeah, there was a war zone. It wasn't fun. But when we got there, we were thrown into sort of life-death situation. And you meet all these people you've never met, which are your team. That you're going to climb with, so you buddied up, and you've got to keep each other alive. Essentially, we knew nothing about each other. We had no history, and there was no ego, there was no getting to know each other. We've got to keep each other alive now. So let's get past all of that, and that's something that's taught me in my spiritual work, is working past the ego, getting to the root of who somebody really is. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely. I could see the spiritual connection completely.
Yeah.
What a way to learn how to really trust in a situation like that.
It's about trust, isn't it? So that might have helped with the trance. I don't know, but I vow it has. So it's.
Well, I think that every step that we take is one step closer to what we actually came here to accomplish. Every step that we take, every obstacle, every path that we come across, like you said, the challenges that I've had in my life, I would not change them for 1 minute, because each one of them has created more and more of the real me, instead of being because I was talking to somebody and they said, it's interesting through the path that you've gone through that you've been able to so drastically change your life, so drastically be a totally different person. It really is a matter of learning from each particular situation I went through and saying, this is something that, at first I didn't. At first I was just mad about it, or I hated the person, or whatever, the emotions that you go through. But as you keep going through them, you start being more the observer of your life and saying, oh, well, this is my life and this is all happening to me. So why is this happening? And then you start being more the observer of what's happening and learning from it. You totally transform your life.
Yeah, totally do. It's all about trust, isn't it? I mean, it's like, sorry, I get carried away. I don't mean to talk about myself. I'll leave in a minute. But I can remember when we got off one of the military helicopters at Kyrgyzstan, and my whole team were all military men. One had been in Vietnam. Okay. So they would all been in, they were like big guys. There's little Janine Lane, on the helicopter that was leaking fuel all over the place because it's in the middle of Kyrgyzstan, and the people there just didn't look after anything out there. It was like,
oh my God,
helicopter, all the windows open and everything. And we got off, and they put these food barrels, which were about 30 kilos each, full of food, off the plane. And our team leader says, you've got to roll these each across the glacier to your campsite. But bearing in mind, you're at 5,000 meters and you can't breathe. These military men couldn't do it. And they'd fought in Kyrgyzstan, they were military trained men. And I can remember one guy walking across the glacier with a huge rucksack on his back, and he fell to the ground, and he says, I cannot do this, Janine. He was military trained to be really strong, but he was physically strong, but he mentally wasn't. And that's what taught me out there. It's what's going on up here, not what's going on in the body, that gets you through sort of situations, doesn't it? And it sounds a bit drastic, but that was another lesson.
Totally. I totally understand that. Totally get it. And all of us are different, whether it's going to be starting out with physical or mental, depending on whatever is our thing as a human, what is our trait that we are weaker in. So I had a pretty strong mind, but I didn't feel like I had the confidence to be a strong person because of my past. I didn't feel like that was okay for me. So I developed strong physically, and then I started working on the spiritual after that. So it's really amazing analogy, because we're all different.
That's what mediumship's about. And I'm sure with everything that's going on at the moment with COVID and everything, that's what the spirit world are teaching us. That's what Richard tells me, because he's been teaching me that for years. When my climbing, my guides have always been there. That it's up here we can change our our reality of what we want, if we can change the mind, how we work. So, and
we're doing that, I think, all of our life. We're not going to ever succeed. I mean, I'm sure we possibly can. I always fight myself when I say that, because when I hear the words, it's like, of course you can, but most likely we won't, because that's not our experience. But we can have it. This is my mental chatter I like to have. But it's an amazing journey that we get to go through. And it's really an amazing journey when we can find peeps that are supportive and helpful in the journey too, to help other people to get through that as well. Like, I always wanted to be a climber. That was going to be, if my life hadn't drastically changed in almost overnight, I would have done climbing. That was right there on my list of cliff climbing.
I was crazy. I was a crazy woman when I used to be a climber. I couldn't climb a ladder now. I couldn't climb a ladder. Honestly, I couldn't. I could not climb a ladder at all. But I'm trying to get my physical health sorted out. So I'm strong mentally, but my physical health isn't strong at the moment. So Spirit are teaching me about my physical health at the moment. But climbing is fun.
Yeah, fun.
I used to be a right cow when my kids were young. I used to take them down to Baggy Point, which is like a huge cliff, sea cliff down where we live. It's about 10-mile drive away. And when my daughter was about 14, she said, "Oh, Mum, can you take me out climbing?" You know, and I used to throw her off, well, not throw her off, but tie her into a belay and lower her down a 35, well, 135-foot cliff side, and I used to lower her down and put into the sea. And I'd say, "We climb back up now," you know. But she used to come back and she said, "I hate you, Mum," but it certainly toughened them up. That was awful, wasn't I?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Crazy. Yeah, wouldn't do it now. Wouldn't do it now. Wouldn't climb the ladder.
Well, you could. Just take time again. You did it once, you could do it again. I'm like, I really need to get back. I miss weightlifting. I love weightlifting. There's nothing more euphoric than weightlifting for me. I just loved it.
Oh,
so, but now everybody's closed. The gym I go to actually totally shut down. So it's like, okay, that's good. Okay, now what?
I used to go to the gym all the time because I used to go on the spin bikes and things like that, you know, to train for my climbing and stuff. I used to be so fit and healthy, but I'm like, I've gone from a size 10 now to a size 18, and you know, it just was part of my life. That was part of my life. It's, you know, gone. I mean, I'd like to get back climbing next year, but not expeditions or anything. Just climbing, you know, indoor climbing.
Well, I think that for me, it's once I get more balanced into my direction of where I'm going and what I really want to do, because I'm still like, I'm a jack of so many different trades. I need to like hone in eventually on what exactly it is. I love doing this. This is the one thing that I'm consistent on. But I think that I will go back to that when the time is right, because right now I've got too much going on that I'm figuring out mentally and emotionally. So that's still my focus. But physical, though, I have to say it is so important. I know how important it is. As you know, it really saves you too. Like what I was doing all this stuff where I was like probably one of the worst times of my life. And that literally saved me was to be, I mean, I was running 10 miles a day, at least 6 days a week. I was like, I was pounding it. But I had to keep I had to keep myself busy to process, to be able to figure things out, to be able to see the bigger picture of things. And that was the way I did it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I used to literally train myself to death because I, for some reason, Spirit would say, well, you know, you're exercising yourself to the over limitations of a human being, because I was blocking out the emotions. So the more I climbed, the more I ran, the more I climbed, the more I didn't have to deal with it. Do you see what I mean? But then at the same time, I was sort of like yourself with your weight training. You're awakening at the same time, building up that mental strength.
Absolutely. When I was running, I would have the best meditations. I didn't know I was meditating when I was doing that, but that's when I would have the best. I was literally connecting to my guides when I was doing that. And I didn't know that's what I was doing. But when I would go into weightlifting, that's when I would get all my aggressions out and not be overthinking at the same time, because I was really pushing really, really heavy weight. So I would have to concentrate on that. But it was really kind of that processing through what my old truth was and what I knew to be true and how I was processing through it. So even though I was doing all that, in the back of my mind, I was always going through the program, always trying to analyze and figure out what really is true and what's not.
Yeah, it's all the process, isn't it? I can remember one time on the mountain, I think we couldn't reach the summit and we were coming on the way back down, and it must have been the third or fourth week, I can't remember now. And I literally lay down in the snow, and I literally, Jan, I could have just gone then. I could have just gone to Spirit. I was more than exhausted. I was unwell. And I can remember Spirit saying to me, get up, really loudly, get up, out of the snow now. It's like, get up. And I want you to get down the bottom of this mountain. I thought I was never going to get down, Joanne. Do you know what I mean? But I think the Spirit will really teach you, don't they, about mental strength. To keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is really cool because, so in part of my running, right above me, I have this really steep hill. Yeah. And when I first started running, I could only run a mile. I was like, I couldn't even run a mile. It was like nothing. And then I was going, you know, working up to 10 miles, and that wasn't even challenging enough. So I would be running up this hill. But the more and more that I did, that was really taxing and really hard, the more and more I saw the strength that was truly within me. Yeah. And that is exactly what you were talking about, where you realize I can go farther. I can go, you know, this last distance, I can make it. And that's what we all have to hold on to, because sometimes in life, you know, it can get really hard. But you always know, like, especially when you start developing your connection with spirit, and you know that they really are there to help you. They're really there to guide you. It's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to run from. Because again, not only was I going through this change in my life in the awakening, but a part of that process was throwing everything I was raised with, everything I knew to be true, which I started doubting years before, but wouldn't trust my doubt, was now facing me. I had to actually face, how can this be true when I see this? How can this be true when I'm feeling this? How can this be true when I tested this? That's really, it's crazy. Enlightenment is a very interesting thing.
It's just like they're teaching us all the time, isn't it? Just in our normal lives, they're teaching us. And you know, I can remember the time where they I was wheelchair bound for some time because I'd had operations and stuff like that, and I can remember Spirit saying, well, you've heard this before on my video, haven't you? And they said, well, we want you to go rock climbing. We want you to go and do this and do that. And I can remember, oh, you're frozen. And then they said, we want you to raise money for North Devon Hospice for people who've got cancer and stuff like that, and go and walk the Inca Trail. And I thought, hang on, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't walk 10 yards up the blinking road. Like, and now you want me to teach climbing and walk and go to Peru? But you know what? We did it. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And it's the power of the mind, isn't it? It's power of the mind. That's what you're doing. So, and with mediumship, any kind of work that we're doing, if everyone's listening, it's the power of the mind that keeps you going.
And I think, though, in mediumship for me, it's not as much, because I can have too much of the power of the mind. For me, it's just allowing and not trying to, because you know, I get what you're saying about the power of the mind. It absolutely is that, because it's so mind-boggling that you can tell somebody a whole story about something, have absolutely no idea what you're saying, and be right. I mean, it just blows your mind. But it really is that, because of the strength that you have and the work that you've gone through to trust that spirit is actually talking through you to only that person, for that person's message, for that person's healing, for their lessons. It's just blows my mind completely.
But if you think, everybody on the live stream have all got their own stories, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Triumphs and strengths that get them through, and we've all got the mental strength to keep going, haven't we? So
absolutely.
We'll have,
and that's the beauty of it. And that's why it's encouraging for me to have people like you on. And guys, I know you really love doing your trance work and your guides, and they're very amazing to help. The wisdom is just incredible. But it's really a part of our journey too. We can't diminish that. It's our journey that encourages other people to keep going on their journey. Because it can get over. I mean, I'm sure you had the dark night of the soul nights too, where you're just like, screw this.
Probably at least once a week. At least once a week, if not more, I can tell you.
Where that ego still creeps in going, you are not good enough. You are a crazy person.
Yeah, you're crazy, you're deluded. Don't do that anymore, Janine. Yeah, had that. Seen the t-shirt.
But then we get up the next day and we're just, you know, we're in a partnership with spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing.
So,
They always do something to lighten our souls, though, don't they? When we're going through a difficult time, they do something to say, just keep going, or what have you.
Yeah.
They will do something, don't they? They show themselves, or they say something, or you know, makes a difference.
I think oh, I don't know her name yet. Your new Ethel, like Ethel.
Ethel, yeah.
Yes, like Ethel does.
I'm still trying to get used to her coming through, because I don't know what her mission is at the moment with me, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
You seem a little bit uncertain about the whole situation. Yeah, but she is getting stronger. I saw in the last one you did with Ethel.
Yeah, I'm letting go in a little bit more with her, aren't I? I'm getting a little more out of the way with her. The trouble is, it's nice to show to not wait until you're fully developed as a trance medium to show that you can develop on the journey, because it is a journey, because I don't think we're ever fully developed, because we're always growing, aren't we? So
exactly.
That's one of the other reasons I've done the gatherings, to show trance mediums that you don't have to be sitting there for 20 years to wait until you're good enough, because you're good enough already when you feel ready and your guides are ready.
You know, that's been one of my things. I think with learning in general, especially in our world, we always feel like we need to have a certain certificate or this certain person to teach us this, or we need to be with that person because that person has what I want or whatever, instead of just allowing the teachers to come through you, but understanding that they're there to help guide what you already know. And we don't have confidence within ourselves to trust what we're here actually to do, and feel like we have to have that stamp of approval from somebody else to be able to. Like for me, I was talking in trance before I started working in trance, and now I don't talk. Well, that's my own belief. That's not true. And I don't need to go through somebody else to learn how to do trance if I've already been doing it. But now I can learn from other people that do trance about how to do it better, right? But instead of, for me, it's like, no, I have to learn from this person to do trance. You know what I mean? It's like, blows my mind how we do that.
I've probably been to 2 trance classes in my whole life, only 2. I went to one workshop in Bristol, and where else did I go? Oh, and I went to another workshop in Bristol. It was two trance classes. And I've always believed the guidance of being taught trance really helps, because taking the information from a teacher is really helpful. But at the end of the day, the only way I think my spirit guides have always said to me, just sit with us.
Yes.
Why worry about the rules and what's meant to be? Just allow us to blend. Just leave all of that behind. Allow us to do the work. Just sit for spirit. Take all the expectation away. Take away how this has got to be done or that's got to be done. And it's not anybody's fault, because we're all here to help teach trance, aren't we? Because our guides need us to be able to teach that, facilitate it. But it's important to come back, I think, into that space and go, okay, it's our team that are teaching. They're the teachers.
You know, that is and that's my point, and I'm seeing that more and more, and it really does come back to trusting your spirit guides, because they will teach you more. Like what happened to me this morning, nobody could teach me that. Nobody can teach me to feel the different changes and who's doing what and what it means to me. Nobody could teach me that. That's something that I have to sit and learn and experience. And that's how we grow. But we always, like you said earlier, people want it now. People want the quick fix. People give me the certificate, and all of a sudden I'm going to be an expert at something. When 9 times out of 10, you walk away from a certificate or a certified class and you never use it. You're not the expert at it. But somehow we feel like going outside of ourselves is what's going to make us better, instead of trusting what's inside of ourselves with the help and guidance of what's outside of ourselves, which is huge.
I mean, even though, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm hugely experienced, but I've only just started teaching a little bit, the occasional workshop or whatever, or trance. But I honestly think, from my guides to you, because they're speaking to me now, to everybody, is the best way to develop trance is to go and live your life. Just start healing, start experiencing your life. That is the best way to develop trance mediumship, and sit with your guides alone. Come away from all the influences of life and allow spirit to be with you. Experience the challenges, experience all the emotional things you've got to work through. Emotionally counsel yourself, because I think that is the best form of trance development. Not sitting in a class and being told how to do this. I know I do teach a little bit, but I honestly, when I'm sitting there and I'm really aware and conscious of going, okay, I'm here to help facilitate the class. But at the end of the day, they have to step away and look within to be able to develop further. And I have to step away and go, okay, spirit, you're the facilitators here today. You're only the guidance for that session, Now,
I do want to state, though, what you're saying is really point on, because it's not that we don't need teachers, right? Because we're all teachers to each other. We all learn from each other. We also teach one another. But Yeah, but yeah, it's spirit that teaches us, but we all are here to help each other too. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like when you go to a teacher and you're relying on them to give you something, there's the
Yeah.
problem. But if you go to a teacher for guidance into something, there's the difference because you're not relying on them to make you something.
Yeah.
You're doing your
bringing
inner
what
work. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we all, teachers come and go in our lives. I've had some amazing teachers that
Yeah.
probably were supposed to teach me one thing and I learned something completely different from them,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
still came out to the end result of me continuing on my path. And that's really
Yeah.
the difference. Don't go to a teacher thinking they're going to make you better or they're going to give you the answers. They may give you the answers in roundabout ways, but you have
Yeah.
to be open to it. You have to be the center person there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure
it.
you have learned a lot from Janine, Sharon. I'm sure you have. She's a great, you know, that's the thing that you are a great teacher in, is that you don't force things on people or tell people they have to do something a certain way or, you know, any of that.
Right.
You're just an example of how to do it. You're an example of how it works for you. And then you allow people to expand from that and how it works for them. And that's the
Yeah.
difference.
I mean, I mean, I don't claim to be a teacher. I'm just learning, you know what I mean? I'm just a little
We're all
Janine here.
teachers.
Yeah. But the thing is, I just think, I mean, I spent 4 or 5 years sat with spirit alone before I even went to a workshop. So when I did go to a workshop, I was like a little bit thrown because I was taught a certain way, which was
Yeah.
a beautiful way of teaching. They were teaching beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But my guides were going, well, hang on, we've taught you this way for the last 4 years and you've never had a tutor but us. So, and I could hear Alice in the background going, well, we want you to go to sleep. We don't want you to listen to the music, Janine. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? So the spirit world, and I stuck it for one lesson, but that was it. I could go back and do another lesson. Crazy, isn't it?
And that's a good example. There you go. Well said. No more needs to be said about that one.
That's funny, isn't it? But it was a really funny example. But I took so much joy from that course, and it was an amazing day, and it was wonderful. Yeah. But like you said, you take what you need, and you leave the rest. And I went back, and I just thought, I'll go back to the way I was doing it with spirit.
Yes. And what did you? You actually learned something from that. You learned that you were doing what worked for you, and that's what's important, right? That nobody. And that's the thing. That's the, like. When I see people that like just honor and worship this teacher, like they have all the answers, but they're not thinking for themselves. Like I said, I believe everybody is a teacher. We're all teaching each other, but we still have to think for ourselves. We still have to decide what works for us, like you did. Well, just think of what you would be doing if you would have listened.
Yeah. This is the thing, isn't it? It's just I think we can make. I think with any kind of mediumship, whether it's mental mediumship, trance. I think if we just get our heads out of the way, that's the answer. Is to get ourselves out of the way, and just let the spirit world guide. It's simple, but it isn't simple. If that makes sense.
Because I've lived it. I feel what you're saying. I'm not hearing what you're saying. I'm feeling what you're saying. We do have to get out of our own way and just allow. And I know it's hard to do because as humans, it's survival, right? Our whole life is about survival. But when we really look at it, that's a falsehood. What are we surviving from? We're not going to die. So what are we surviving from? It's all an illusion. Anyway, Pearl, I have been with you. I've been going
2
through
hours. I'm so sorry.
1 hour and 37 minutes.
Okay, all right, we're going now.
Oh, but wait a minute. Somebody said, Deborah's saying, this is amazing. We're learning so much. Hugs, hugs, hugs. So.
She's listening to us both ranting on. We're carrying on like nobody's here on the live stream, aren't we? We're just chatting away.
I'm glad you love it. This has been fun. These are one of my fun kind of interviews when you can just chat and talk and, it's not about proving something or something. Love it.
Brilliant.
All right, everybody, come back and see when we have part 2 and you'll get to meet Janine's wonderful guides. And it's really a wonderful experience. So come back for that one. Thank you so much, Janine.
Having me, Joanne. It's been so lovely just to come on and laugh and and just talk, generalized talking, you know, because we always do the trance, don't we, or something like that together. And
we're always working.
Yeah.
This has been fun chat. We worked in the beginning and then we got to the fun chat, and everybody was more talkative in the fun chat. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat box. I will be getting back to it. And thank you very much all for being here. I'm glad you all had fun, and take care. Bye.
Yeah. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.